Thoughts about the wilderness don't come on schedule. At first glance, everything seems simple. From the way ants build their hills, you know where north is. Moss on the pines tells you which way to steer your canoe. You learn to tell a game trail from a swampy patch. But when the wind drops, you hear something else, as if the forest itself is breathing behind your ear, hiding something it won't show to everyone. In autumn its voice smells of snow. In spring, of wet bark and the chime of melting streams. However much people tried to measure these lands, there was always a piece that refused to fit into any map. I walked into the geological bureau of a small town, so small you wouldn't even remember its name after a taxi ride. The bureau oversaw the exploration of a huge stretch of the Alaskan wilderness. The offices of the section chiefs all looked alike, a desk under glass with faded orders beneath it, an ashtray filled with cigarette butts, maps and the state emblem on the wall, and in the cabinets, souvenirs, a ball filled with crude oil, shiny mineral samples flecked with mica. This time the decor had a few new additions, a polished walrus tusk and a bear hide hanging behind the chief's chair. Mr. Harris, broad, heavy-set, with red veins in his eyes from long northern assignments and, perhaps, from too many evenings spent to the health of the crew. Good afternoon. Ethan Miller, I introduced myself with a nod. Well then, Ethan, he spread his lips in a half-smile. So you want to join our crew? Yes. Good. Today you rest, tomorrow you're on the route. You'll go ahead of the main group, scout the area, prepare the base camp. Think you can handle it? I can. The helicopter roared like a beehive. Across from me sat a red-haired kid, itching to start teasing. Hey, Blondie, you're a geologist, right? Tell us something scary. There are caves down there, right? Maybe a sun under the ground? Ever heard of Agartha? You should stick to conspiracy channels, I chuckled. Plenty of experts there on lost civilizations. He snorted and turned to the window. I also pressed my forehead to the glass. From 10,000 feet the winding rivers cut through the endless green of spruce and aspen, lakes sparkled, and pale sandbars glittered like scars. Forests rose like islands out of swamps. If you looked carefully, you could see long ridges, as if a giant wave had once frozen in the earth. Once, long ago, all this land lay under the sea. The thought of what kind of force had moved through here sent a chill up my spine. Mammoth country, kid, a burly, shaggy man shouted across the aisle. I've been drilling here 7 years now. Ever find mammoths? I asked. Plenty. Bones everywhere. I even made a knife handle out of tusk, he laughed. The pilot shouted, we're descending. Faces turned serious at once. The helicopter tilted sharply, plunged down, then set down smoothly on the packed snow. I stumbled out with 2 duffels and a rucksack. The all-terrain truck had no space left, so they threw me on the open flatbed, perched on top of backpacks. Anyone who's ridden like that knows the feeling. At the second stop they dropped me off. The driver leaned out. A snowcat should pick you up around 5. Wait here, I've got to run. Solid organization. But I let it pass. The snowcat arrived an hour late. Been waiting long? Sorry, track slipped off. These things are junk. Hop in. We'll make it to our cabin before dark, your hut's not far from there. His name was Jack. Riding the snowcat was smooth enough, the tracks gliding over the cutlines, sweeping aside dead branches. To the west the sky deepened to indigo, stars flickered awake. Far? I asked. 3 miles. We're basically there. The cabin met us with darkness and a door swinging open. The snowcat's headlights lit up an empty woodpile, a rough table, a stove, and stumps for stools. Cobwebs in the corners, a kerosene lamp on the table, empty. Spend the night at my place, Jack stretched? You'll figure things out in the morning. At dawn he left. The main crew comes in 2 weeks. I'll check on you in a week. And I was left alone. Daylight made things look less grim. The shack had a bunk, a stove, and under the planks I found an axe by touch. I spread out my gear and stepped outside. A fire pit was the beginning of any life here. No wood meant I had to head into the pines for deadfall. The slope of pines greeted me with the sharp smell of resin. Dry branches snapped under my boots, moss was covered with yellowed needles. Enough tinder for today, tomorrow I'd cut a dry birch. On the map, just beyond the ridge, there was supposed to be a large lake with a name in some old native tongue. I reached the edge quickly. Below lay a wide sandy beach and beyond it, as far as the eye could see, a blue expanse. My breath caught. I shouted into the emptiness. "Hey there!" The echo came back, rippled the water, a fish splashed at the shore. Half an hour later I was dragging my inflatable boat down to the waterline with a fishing rod in hand. Living next to a lake and eating only dry rations would have been plain stupid. The sun glittered so bright it hurt to keep my eyes open. Minnows darted in the shallows, icy water burned my palm. From the west a narrow channel stretched further into a stream. That meant pike were here, and carp too, hiding in the weeds. Should have brought a net, but I'd tried to save space. The boat whispered across the surface. 20 minutes later I was at mid-lake. Cast once, twice, 3 times, strike. By evening, 2 good-sized pike lay at my feet. I broke their necks so they wouldn't thrash and flip the boat. And then I saw him. On the shore stood a man. Dressed in a native-style parka over sweatpants. Hands behind his back, motionless as driftwood. I pulled the boat ashore. "Good day, sir." His face was dark, wrinkled, his eyes narrow yet clear. He nodded toward the fish. "Fisherman, boss." "Yeah. We've set up a winter cabin here. Geology work." "I understand. Don't make too much noise here, boss." He shook his head. "It's starting." "What's starting?" "The forest will take its due. These lands aren't a fairground." He gestured. Out of the trees came a young man with a rifle, wearing a pitch-black tracksuit. He walked up, held out a hand. "Luke." "Ethan." The old man's name was Samuel, though later I'd learn his church name was John, but he didn't introduce himself that way. He grunted, as if everything about me was already decided. "Come to the camp. You'll explain where you're wandering." The trail wound on, mosquitoes swarmed, Luke swatted them with a birch branch. I offered him bug spray, he refused. Suddenly a clearing opened, not tents, but a log house, and behind it a pen for reindeer. One limped badly, Samuel stroked its neck and gazed at the sky, as if counting days. I gutted the pike quickly, and we made a stew so thick it was almost pudding. Without a word, they set 2 bottles on the table. Samuel poured into tin cups. "What ridges are you going to search?" he asked. "About 3 miles north, sandy ridges, 15 meters high, long, shallow. More of them further north. Then follow the riverbeds to check the tributaries." He listened in silence, then suddenly said sharply, "You shouldn't go there. Dead land." "Why?" "In the 30s, many of our people died there. Bodies piled on the ground, never accepted by the earth. They dug at the ice with their backs, groaned under winter winds. Survivors starved. Some turned on each other." Luke scoffed. "Don't listen. Old man likes his ghost stories." Night slanted. The guitar had missing strings, but Luke still strummed rough chords. I lay down on a bench. Dreams came fast, a black maw, rows of triangular teeth, water rushing in, and somewhere among bones flashed the sleeve of my own jacket. I woke in cold sweat. "To hell with this," I muttered, sitting up. Dawn glowed gray. A bottle on the table still had a drop. I swallowed it and felt the grip of fear loosen. In the morning I said to Luke, "Take me to your dead mountain?" He smirked. "I'll take you. Just don't whine afterward." The trail climbed upward. Wind died. Silence pressed like cotton in my ears. Luke walked ahead, brushing trunks with his hand. On the branches hung white and red ribbons. I froze, feeling a gaze stab between my shoulder blades, first like a needle, then like a nail. I whipped around. No one. "Let's get out of here," I said. "Fine," he agreed. Only back at the camp did the feeling ease, but a sticky aftertaste remained. The forest had taken a sample of my fear and pocketed it for later. That evening I locked myself in my shack, lit the stove, opened a can of food. I craved silence. Sleep hit me hard. That night nothing dreamed, just black. The next morning I went back to the lake. Inflated the boat, glanced around, even checked the bushes, half expecting Samuel to be standing there like a statue again. The sky had gone gray. I stayed close to the sandbar where the bottom dropped into deep water. Soon a thin rain began to needle the surface. First cast, nothing. Second, nothing. Third, a strike so hard it nearly tore the rod from my hands. The boat rocked violently, I almost toppled out. The line screamed tight as if being dragged under a speedboat. Then I saw it, a shadow beneath me. Wide, heavy, slow. My chest froze. The shadow turned and suddenly surged upward. Something slammed into the hole from below, tossing me into the freezing water. God Almighty! I gasped, mouth filling with icy air. The boat was 3 lengths away. I swam for it, but then the water beside me erupted. A jaw surfaced, long like a crocodile's, but broader, studded with rows of triangular teeth. It snapped the boat in half like it was made of paper. Water poured into its throat, gray shreds of rubber dangling from its fangs. I saw its eye, yellow, slit-pupilled, burning with a cold light. My mind went blank. I don't remember how I reached the shore. I crawled onto sand, knees giving out, fingers numb. In the cabin I grabbed my shotgun, snapped it open with shaking hands, sat on the bunk. I wanted to laugh and howl at the same time. "Samuel," I whispered. "Old devil." Shoving the gun in its case, I bolted along the trail to their camp. Empty. The cabin deserted. The reindeer pen, vacant. At the doorstep lay a shard, white against the dark ground. I picked it up, and my fingers trembled. It was a tooth. Triangular, sharp as a knife, half the size of my palm. I placed it on my open hand and realized, the forest had me hooked now. Night fell thick as tar. I sat on the bunk, shotgun across my knees, listening to the stove breathe with embers. The tooth lay beside me, triangular, warm, almost alive. I picked it up, squeezed until pain shot through my hand, and caught myself thinking, if I wear it around my neck, maybe it will be easier. Sleep wouldn't come. Close my eyes, and the shadow under the boat opened its jaws. Open them, and silence pressed against the walls. So I sat until dawn. The next day dragged like wet cloth. I paced the cabin, avoided looking out the window, gulped water straight from the cup, replayed every step to the lake. By evening anger rose, at myself, at Samuel for keeping secrets, at the wilderness where every swamp and river could be someone's mouth. The second night was worse. I dozed for minutes at a time, waking in jerks as if someone grabbed my shoulder. Just before dawn, a crash outside. Metal groaned, birds shrieked upward. I rushed barefoot with the shotgun ready. Down the trail thundered a snowcat, black with mud, headlights stabbing my eyes. Reflexively, I pulled the trigger. Buckshot rang against its side with a sickening clang. "You crazy bastard?" From under the machine leapt Jack. He ducked, then glared up at me. "Drop the gun. Now." I lowered it, legs gone rubbery. Jack came closer, gave me a smack on the shoulder. "Still alive?" I nodded and sat straight in the wet moss. My throat clenched, breath ragged, tears threatening like I was a schoolboy. "Easy. Get up. Tell me everything." We sat inside the cabin. Jack poured liquor from his flask, it burned down my throat, cleared my head. I spilled it all, the dead mountain, the ribbons, the silence like concrete, the lake, the boat, the jaws, the eye, the tooth by the door. My voice cracked, rose, then vanished. Jack listened without interrupting. Only once he flinched. "Show me the tooth." I placed it on the table. He turned it over, whistled, his weathered face hardening. "All right? We're going to see Samuel. Now. You can't sit here alone losing your mind." "Fine," I exhaled. "If he hasn't run off." Jack snorted. "Old men don't run. They disappear the way they're meant to." The ride to the big camp didn't take long. The snowcat glided, branches slapping the sides like drumsticks. The clearing opened like a doorway. The reindeer clustered, a living wave of antlers. Samuel stood at the fence, coiling a lasso, lips pressed tight. "Who called you here?" he asked flatly. Jack raised both palms. "Not me. Him first." He nodded at me. I pulled the triangular tooth from my pocket, laid it on my palm. Samuel didn't even reach for it, just frowned, turned his gaze aside as if checking with someone unseen. Then his eyes locked on me, heavy as a debt collector's stare. "I warned you. Don't climb the mountain." "Too late," I shrugged. I went. I saw the lake too. "Now it won't leave you," he said calmly. "It's like a track in snow, once you step in, you walk it to the end. Give me your hand." "What for?" "To bore a hole. Make it an amulet." "You can't be serious." Jack elbowed me. "Do it. You look at walls like they're about to swallow you." Samuel took a thin awl and knife. His hands worked steady, practiced. The tooth wasn't stone at all, some strange bone, smooth like glass. He pierced the base, threaded rawhide, looped it around my neck. The weight sank onto my chest at once. Now listen, he said. Every year we feed the water. That's the way it is. If we don't, it takes on its own. Better to offer. Feed who? I asked. Who lives deeper? The old ones called it by their names. Call it whatever you like. Makes no difference. I'll call it trouble, I muttered. A fitting name, Samuel smirked without humor. We need a reindeer. Right now. You're kidding? Jack leaned on the fence. And how do we pay for that later? You'll pay by staying alive. Not such a bad deal. Samuel cast the lasso, the loop caught on antlers. The reindeer bolted, dragging the herd, but Samuel held firm, pulled, the pen rattling with antlers and hooves. Luke rushed in, helped pin the chosen one to the corner. What followed was fast and unpleasant. A knife, blood steaming in the cold, pale lips on our faces. To the lake, Samuel ordered. Jack blinked. With what? You still got a boat? It floats. The vessel was no normal boat, a heavy wooden trough with thick stern and hollow eye-like sockets. Together we heaved the carcass inside. I took the oars. Samuel stood at the stern. The lake lay flat as polished glass. The sky hung low like a barn roof. I rowed, the wood groaning with each pull, water thick as syrup, even the splashes muted. Here, Samuel raised his hand. Stop. We froze. Silence swelled, like a train rumbling far away. Samuel lifted his face to the clouds and began chanting. Not in English. Guttural words, heavy like stones, dropped one by one into the water. Between them I caught only two familiar words, shaman and fish. Jack's lip curled. You said it was just a fish, he whispered. I don't like the clarification either, I muttered back. Throw it, Samuel barked, kneeing me. What? The reindeer. Now. We strained shoulders, shoved. The trough creaked, boards groaning. The carcass slid, tore the skin on my palm, and finally slipped into the dark. The lake swallowed it without a splash, as if no weight had fallen at all. Blood, Samuel growled. Over the water. He already had my cut finger, widened the scratch with his knife. Drops gathered, fell, one after another. The lake stayed still, cradling our craft. And then the silence beneath us twitched. A surge straight under the boat. First rose a ridge, massive, algae clinging green. Then the jaw, stretching like a bridge, lined with triangular blades. Between them hung our reindeer, dangling like a rag doll. Behind the jaw, an eye. Yellow, slit, fixed not on the carcass but on us. I shrank back, hit the side. The trough groaned, Samuel grabbed my collar. Jack froze, paralyzed. The creature lifted higher, water streaming off its bulk like rain off a log. The weight of it wasn't just physical, it was ancient, heavier than the earth itself. It didn't see people. It saw noise, surface, disturbance. We were silent as stone. Then it sank, dragging the carcass down. The surface smoothed over like nothing had broken it. The lake wore its mask again. I bowed my head, half ready to laugh and cry together. Now you understand, Samuel rasped, not asking. They aren't evil or kind. They just are. They need a passage. We give it. And you, wear that, he jabbed my chest where the tooth hung. If you stray where you shouldn't, take it off. But better not to stray. Who are you, Samuel? Jack asked, no longer looking at him as just some old herder, but like a man holding keys. Local. Stranger. One who remembers. Can't you be clearer? No. He sat back on the stern. Row us home. I rowed. Arms burning, back aching. The world that had seemed logical yesterday shifted like a glacier today. On shore Jack stayed silent a long time. Finally he shook his head. You're leaving tomorrow. I'll drive you to the heliport myself. There's nothing here left for you to find. But the main crew comes in a week. They'll cancel it. Mark my words. Why? He squinted at the heavy sky, as if answers lay hidden in the clouds. Because this land's already claimed. And the real contracts were signed long before your bureau drew up papers. We rode back to my shack. Samuel slipped into the forest edge, dissolving like mist among the pines. For a second I thought he looked younger, shoulders straightened, his walk firm. Did I imagine that? I asked aloud. What? Jack turned. Nothing. That night I finally slept, dreamless, flat, empty. In the morning Jack fixed something on the snowcat, spat, patted the side, grinned crookedly. Lucky you. I'll take you to the heliport on the smooth road, not the busted trail. Generous of me, huh? The road ran north, then east, to the clearing where the iron dragonfly hummed. We rode in silence. My hand rested on the tooth at my chest, its warmth strange, part shame, part comfort. The pad buzzed with life. The helicopter waited, rotors half closed like an eyelid. Roughnecks lounged nearby. I even saw the same red-haired kid who'd teased me. He waved. Well, romantic, had your fill? I smirked. Didn't care if he believed me or not. Just before I climbed aboard, I caught Jack's eyes. If you come back, let me know. We'll sit, you'll tell me what your dreams look like. Trust me, I said. You won't want to hear. I already do. We hugged quickly. I climbed the steps, pressed my forehead to the window as the engine raised its voice, blades whipping the air. On the far side of the clearing, at the tree line, Samuel stood. Not waving, not nodding. Just watching his outsider leave. The city met me with the screech of tires, the stench of hot asphalt, the buzz of summer dust. I walked the bureau halls, the tooth heavy against my chest. In Mr. Harris's office, nothing had changed, the desk under glass, maps on the wall, the ashtray, the oil globe. Well, Ethan, made it back? He smiled thinly. You look interesting. What happened to your hand? Cut myself, I said curtly. Happens. So, what about our crew? He laced his fingers, cracked them like in church before prayer, face turning serious. Called off. That site's reassigned for ethnographic studies. Some people filed papers before us. No point fighting it. Who are these people? On the papers, a society. In truth, one man and his assistant. Name, he rummaged through a drawer, pulled out a yellowed clipping. Here. Take a look. But don't keep it. The photo froze me. A younger man, sharp-cheeked, eyes clear, holding a long bone shard with teeth, part of an ancient jaw. The caption, Associate Professor of Ichthyology, University of Alaska Fairbanks. The surname hit me like a hammer, the same. Only here, no nickname. I stared at the lines. The world clicked again, like a camera shutter snapping everything into place, the lasso, the ribbons, the chanting on the lake, the knife, the old age layered over hidden youth. Good article, Harris muttered. Read it years ago, thought it was folk tales. Guess not. Anyway, go settle your pay. Rest a bit. Next time, no monsters, I hope. I nodded, left the office, smiled to myself. The wilderness had hung its tooth on me and offered no explanation. The same wilderness that quietly stamped its seals across all our paperwork. And still we thought we were in charge of the maps. I believed the city would wash the forest out of me, asphalt, noise, faces, shops. But the tooth reminded me. That evening I took it off, set it on the nightstand. The lamp flickered, and in that trembling light the tooth pulled my gaze like a magnet. I turned to the wall, but felt it breathing. I couldn't sleep. At midnight I threw on a jacket, stepped into the yard. Rain drummed on garage roofs, the air thick with metal. The thought struck me, I wanted to go back. Not home, not to friends, back there. Where it was terrifying, but honest. A week later I was summoned again. Not to Harris's office, but a small room with a peeling map on the wall. A man in his 50s sat there, narrow-faced, dry hands, eyes like X-rays. Ethan Miller? He asked. Yes. Sit. He tapped the table. You were on the site Mr. Harris's crew managed? Yes. See anything unusual? I smirked. Lie or not? His stare told me it was useless. He'd drag the truth out anyway. I saw. But if I tell you, you'll think I've lost my mind. Try me, he said, almost smiling. I'm a good listener. So I told him. About the dead mountain. About the ribbons. About the jaws under the boat. About the tooth. About the old man who wasn't old at all. The more I spoke, the lighter I felt, as if dropping one sack after another. When I finished, he nodded. Good. I thought you'd dodge. But no. You speak straight. That matters. You believe me? I asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead he opened a drawer, laid out a folder. Black and white photos, yellow with time. One showed the same lake, from the air. Another, a strange track in sand, like a chain scar. A third, a man with a net and a fish nearly his size. The fish was dead, its eyes cloudy, but its teeth, those triangular teeth. This, I couldn't finish. This is what others saw before you, he said calmly. You're not the first. And not the last. Then why, my throat tightened. Why do nothing? What would you suggest? He looked straight at me. Drain the lake? Blow it up? Dig it out? Do you even understand what sleeps there? Sometimes it's better to feed than to wake. I was silent. He closed the folder. Live your life, Ethan. But keep the tooth. And don't get clever. The wilderness hates those who measure its pockets with rulers. He rose, ending the talk. I stood too. At the door he added. By the way, his real name isn't Samuel. It's John Thomas. For you, keep calling him Samuel. Safer that way. 3 months passed. Autumn gripped the city by the shoulders, leaves crumbled underfoot. I'd slipped back into routine, maps in the lab, tea from a thermos, long hours over dusty reports. Almost forgetting. Almost. Then came the dream. So vivid I woke in a cold sweat. The lake. Ice sealed across it. And under the ice, movement. Slow at first, then violent. A massive shadow rammed the ice with its back, cracking ribs through the crust. The roar sounded like beams splintering. Then the jaw, the same, only larger, pressing up beneath the ice. Through the frozen sheet I saw the teeth. I fell toward them, and just before impact the tooth on my chest blazed crimson. I bolted upright. The amulet burned hot against my skin. I held it in my palm, it scorched like metal left in fire. What are you showing me? I whispered. No answer. Only silence. A week later the phone rang. Ethan. How are you? It was Jack. Holding on. Where are you? Back in those parts. At the big camp. Listen, his voice faltered. Come. Samuel's asking for you. Told me, tell the blonde one, if the tooth burns, it's time to return. My throat went dry. I looked out the window. Snow was falling. I'll come. Don't wait. Time's moving. He hung up. I sat holding the receiver, staring into nothing. Then I stood, packed a rucksack. Rifle, sleeping bag, knife. And of course, the tooth. It pulsed hot, as if it wanted to walk back to the lake on its own. I understood, this wasn't finished. It was only tightening. The wilderness was calling me again. And this time, there'd be no coming back the same. The road back felt different. Not like the first trip, when I'd been buzzing with greenhorn excitement. Now the weight pressed harder. I knew that beyond the postcard sunsets and pretty landscapes waited something too big for my head to hold. The helicopter thundered, spinning the white world below. Snow smothered the forest, ridges hunched black, rivers stretched like scars. I searched the endless sweep for the lake, but winter had covered it. Only pale ribbons of rivers and dark knots of pines remained. At the landing pad Jack was waiting, same mud-crusted snowcat, same crooked grin, but fewer jokes in his eyes. Well, look who made it. Thought you wouldn't come. I thought so too. But the tooth didn't let me. He nodded, as if that explained everything. We drove in silence. Snow hissed under the tracks, the forest stood frozen like old guards. I kept asking myself why I was going back. To prove I wasn't insane? To look Samuel in the eye and demand the truth? The camp met us with fire and steam. Reindeer shuffled in the pen, breath thick as fog. Samuel sat on a stump by the cabin. Not old, not young, exactly as I remembered. You came, he said without rising. You called me. Not me. He pointed beyond the reindeer, toward the dark woods. The shaman did. The word chilled me. Why? You're marked now. Whoever sees, never forgets. He's waiting for you. I clenched the tooth in my fist. And what am I supposed to do? Walking empty-handed is foolish. You need an offering. Another reindeer? No, Samuel's eyes locked on mine. This time you choose what to give. The words hung heavy in the air. Jack exhaled nervously. You kidding me? We're not feeding that, whatever it is every week. Samuel shook his head. Everyone pays their own price. I looked at my palms. Scars from the old cut still showed. The amulet dragged at me, heavy as a stone. And if I don't? I asked quietly. Then it will take what it wants, Samuel said with unnerving calm. That night we sat inside the cabin. The stove rumbled, frost squeaked outside. Luke whittled a stick with his knife in silence. I asked him. You've seen it too, haven't you? He raised his eyes, smirked faintly. Since childhood. It's our test. Those who survive, belong here. And those who don't? The water takes them. I turned to Samuel. You knew I'd come back? He nodded. You're the kind who can't forget. The wilderness keeps such men by the collar. Just then, outside, the wind roared. Like something huge inhaled and exhaled. The walls shivered. Luke froze mid-stroke. Samuel rose slowly, eyes fixed on me. He's here. Heat flared at my chest. The tooth glowed, searing hot. Months passed. Autumn settled over the city, leaves crunching underfoot, nights smelling of smoke. I buried myself in routine, maps in the lab, tea from a thermos, the dull chatter of colleagues. It almost worked. Almost. Then came the dream. The lake. Frozen solid. Under the ice, motion. First a ripple, then a violent surge. A shadow vast as a train car rammed the ice, cracking it with its spine, groaning like collapsing beams. Then the jaw, wider, heavier than before, pressed against the frozen sheet. Through the ice I saw the teeth. I fell toward them, and just before impact the tooth on my chest flared red hot. I woke choking on air. The amulet burned against my skin. When I held it in my hand, it seared like iron pulled from fire. What do you want from me? I whispered. The apartment answered only with silence. A week later the phone rang. Ethan? How are you holding up? It was Jack. Surviving. Where are you? In the north. At the big camp. His voice faltered. Listen, you need to come back. Samuel asked for you. Told me, if the tooth burns, tell him it's time. My mouth went dry. Outside, snow drifted past the window. I'll come, I said. Don't delay. Time's running. He hung up. I sat with the receiver in my hand, staring into the dark. Then I stood, packed a rucksack, rifle, sleeping bag, knife. And the tooth, pulsing hot as if it wanted to leave ahead of me. This wasn't over. It had only begun tightening its grip. The wilderness was calling me back. And this time, there'd be no return as the same man. The way back felt different. The first time I'd come as a greenhorn chasing adventure. Now I knew better. Behind the postcard sunsets and snowy ridges lay something the human mind had no frame for. The helicopter thundered over Alaska's forests, endless stretches buried under snow. Dark knots of spruce, gray rivers, white ridges. I searched for the lake, but winter had hidden it. At the pad, Jack waited with the same mud-crusted snowcat, the same crooked grin, but fewer jokes in his eyes. Well, look who showed up. Thought you'd chicken out. I thought so too. But the tooth wouldn't let me. He nodded, like that explained everything. We drove in silence. Snow hissed under the tracks, the forest stood frozen like watchmen. I kept asking myself, why was I coming back? To prove I wasn't insane? To confront Samuel? Or because something deeper had already chosen for me? The camp greeted us with firelight. Reindeer huffed clouds of steam in the pen. Samuel sat on a stump by the cabin. Not young, not old, unchanged. You came, he said. You called me. Not me. He pointed into the woods, beyond the reindeer. He did. The word shaman made my skin crawl. Why me? You're marked. Once you see, you don't forget. And he's waiting. I clenched the tooth in my fist. What do I do? Walking empty-handed is foolish. You'll need an offering. Another reindeer? No, Samuel's eyes fixed on mine. This time you decide what to give. The words hung like frost. Jack let out a bitter laugh. You're insane. We're not feeding that thing every week. Samuel shook his head. Each man pays his own price. I stared at my scarred palm. The amulet dragged on me, heavy as stone. And if I don't? I asked. Then it'll take what it wants, Samuel answered calmly. That night we sat by the stove. Luke whittled wood, sparks flying from his knife. I asked him. You've seen it too, haven't you? He smirked. Since I was a kid. It's our trial. Survive it, you belong. Don't, the water takes you. I turned to Samuel. You knew I'd come back. He nodded. You're the kind the forest keeps by the collar. The kind who can't let go. A roar swept the cabin walls, not wind but a massive inhalation. Boards trembled. Luke froze. Samuel stood, his gaze drilling into me. He's here. Heat seared my chest. The tooth blazed like a coal, and I understood, the lake wasn't done with me. That night we left the cabin. The moon hung low, the snow glittered with frost. The lake stretched before us, black as a mirror. I stepped closer, and the tooth on my chest twitched like it was alive. "What do I do?" I asked. "Stand still," Samuel said. "Raise your hand. Let him see you're not afraid." I lifted my palm. The wind died. Out on the lake center, the surface stirred. Slowly, like a nightmare surfacing from sleep, a ridge rose. Then the jaw, wide as a bus, studded with rows of knives. The mouth opened silently, wider, wider, until darkness itself yawned at me. I froze. The tooth blazed so hot it scorched my skin. Then a sound came, not a roar, not a splash. A voice. Low, drawn out, like a bell tolling under water. It struck my chest, rattled my bones. He smirked. "Since I was a kid. It's our trial. Survive it, you belong. Don't, the water takes you." I turned to Samuel. "You knew I'd come back." He nodded. "You're the kind the forest keeps by the collar. The kind who can't let go." A roar swept the cabin walls, not wind but a massive inhalation. Boards trembled. Luke froze. Samuel stood, his gaze drilling into me. "He's here." Heat seared my chest. The tooth blazed like a coal, and I understood, the lake wasn't done with me. That night we left the cabin. The moon hung low, the snow glittered with frost. The lake stretched before us, black as a mirror. I stepped closer, and the tooth on my chest twitched like it was alive. "What do I do?" I asked. "Stand still," Samuel said. "Raise your hand. Let him see you're not afraid." I lifted my palm. The wind died. Out on the lake center, the surface stirred. Slowly, like a nightmare surfacing from sleep, a ridge rose. Then the jaw, wide as a bus, studded with rows of knives. The mouth opened silently, wider, wider, until darkness itself yawned at me. I froze. The tooth blazed so hot it scorched my skin. Then a sound came, not a roar, not a splash. A voice. Low, drawn out, like a bell tolling under water. It struck my chest, rattled my bones. I knew, this wasn't just an animal. It was something older, greater. It looked at me. It waited. "What does it want from me?" I whispered. Samuel didn't answer right away. His face was stone. "You," he said finally. "All of you." I stumbled back. "No." The tooth flared brighter, and the water heaved, reaching toward me like hands. Jack grabbed my shoulder. "Don't you dare. Don't give in." But inside me something was boiling, as if the lake itself had seeped into my blood. I heard a voice inside my skull, "Come back, come to me." And I realized, this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The lake pulled at me like a whirlpool. One more step and the water would rise to claim me. The tooth seared, begging to be torn off and thrown away. "Hold on!" Jack shouted, yanking my arm. Samuel didn't move. He stared straight at the water, as if speaking with it without words. "Let him go," he said softly, but firmly. "His time hasn't come yet." The lake stilled. The jaw lingered, eye glowing yellow in the dark. It fixed not on me now, but on Samuel. Long, unblinking. Then it slid back under, the ripples closing smooth. The tooth cooled. My breath came ragged, and I collapsed into the snow. "What was that?" I croaked. "A meeting." Samuel sat beside me, hugging his knees. "Now he knows you. And what do I do with that?" "Live. As long as he calls, you'll return. As long as he lets go, don't provoke him." "So, the rest of my life?" Samuel shrugged. "Everyone carries their own burden." Morning came wrapped in white fog. Snow fell in heavy flakes, covering every track. Luke led the way uphill with the certainty of someone who had walked that path his whole life. Jack cursed under his breath. "We're walking to our own graves. No sane man comes here." "We're not sane anymore," Luke said. "We were called." The tooth on my chest burned from the first step and never cooled. It was pulling me, like a compass needle. The climb was brutal. Snow lashed our faces, wind stung like glass. Then, suddenly, silence. No wind, no sound. Only a plateau stretched ahead, black ground bare of snow, covered with crooked stones that jutted up like bones. Burnt lines scored the earth, glowing faintly red. "Dead mountain," Luke whispered, crossing himself. I stepped forward. The tooth scorched my chest. You are home, a voice whispered inside me. I touched one of the stones. My vision flared. Soldiers in ragged coats, hollow-eyed, dragged here in the 1930s. Executed, dumped in pits, their blood soaking the earth. The cries still echoed through the rock. I ripped my hand away, gasping. But the vision clung. This place is soaked in it, Luke said. That's why it's called dead. The ground shuddered. The stones glowed brighter. And then the earth split. Steam poured out, and from it rose figures, black, thin, human-shaped shadows. Dozens of them, eyes burning yellow slits. Jack swore, raising his rifle. Don't, Luke snapped. They're not alive. The shadows turned their faces to me. The tooth seared white-hot. Come to us, the voice thundered inside. Jack grabbed my arm. You'll die if you go down there. I looked at him. And I knew, if I stayed, I'd be torn apart from the inside. Let me go, I said. This isn't yours. His grip loosened. I stepped into the fissure. The fall ended in a cavern so vast the ceiling vanished into darkness. Roots glowed faintly, rivers ran black and slow. In the water, shapes moved, huge, silent, older than any myth. The tooth beat with my heart, but not my rhythm, his. At the center lay a lake. I bent over and saw a reflection, not mine. A man with yellow eyes, skin pale, the same tooth blazing at his chest. He raised his hand, and my tooth flared in answer. You are no longer you, the voice said. The lake stirred. The jaw surfaced, massive and endless, the eye staring straight into me. You are chosen. You are my voice above. I screamed, why me? The answer shook the cavern, because you looked, and did not run. The water rose, jaws yawning. Darkness swallowed me whole. I woke on the mountain plateau. Jack shook me, frantic. Ethan! Wake up! I gasped, clutching the tooth. It pulsed, not cold, not warm. Beating like a second heart. Luke stared, his eyes no longer brown, yellow slits gleamed. He nodded slowly, as if recognizing what I had become. Jack's voice trembled. What happened down there? I looked at him. I could hear his pulse, his fear, the forest itself breathing. The voice in my chest whispered, we are one now. We returned to camp in silence. Samuel was gone. No one even tried to find him. His work was finished. That night I dreamed of caverns, rivers of black water, shadows swimming deeper than light could reach. The eye opened in the dark, and the voice said, now you speak for me. I woke in the city weeks later, in my own bed, rain rattling against the glass. But the tooth throbbed like a living thing. Sometimes in reflections my eyes flashed yellow. Sometimes, at night, I heard water sloshing under the asphalt, as if something vast was swimming just beneath the streets. Jack was right, I hadn't returned. Not really. And when the tooth heats up, I know, the lake is calling again. This isn't the end. Only the beginning. If this story touched you and you want more, stay with us. Subscribe, leave a like, so you don't miss the moment when the next story knocks at your door. And in the comments, write a single word, the one that stayed with you today. From that word, our next story may begin.